On this channel, we often talk about what needs to be banned in Vanguard. You know, what is just too powerful, what should be hit in order to balance the game better. However, what we don't talk about very often is what can we actually unban. So today, rather than saying this needs to be banned, this needs to be banned, we're going to talk about the things that were banned in the past and why as well. And then, could it come back? Maybe. We'll see. Let's talk about that. As always, if you need anything Vanguard like set 5 that's about to come out or premium collection, you can go to 50cards.shop. Link will be in the description and you can use the code Solemn for a discount. I'm really looking forward to premium collection in specific. I think most people know that. There's also clan collection coming up, of course. I don't know if that's listed already, but set 5 is. Set 5 has some really cool bangers, though some people say a lot of the cards are a bit weaker. Overall, though, some fan favorites for sure, but premium collection is where it's at. First of all, we have United Sanctuary, we have Ultima, and the Overtrigger. Choice restricted. Why did this happen? Basically, Ultima could stack the Overtrigger on top of the deck, and that way your whole field would have 100 million power together with the crits and so forth, and then that was too much. I think this choice restriction can be lifted, and the reason is because we're
banning Overtriggers, baby! Fuck them, yeah!
Serious for a moment, I think this choice restriction can be lifted because they should just be banned. End of story. Now, if they aren't banned, if for some reason they survive, in that case, of course, keep the choice restriction alive. Next, we have Dr. Refrost in Angel Feather. Refrost was hit because you could do an infinite loop within Angel Feather to give your field infinite power. However, this was very late into the game, and your deck had to basically be close to deck out, and then you could loop this, and then you essentially had 3 attacks with infinite. Whoa, and if you had a Harut, it could be more. It would be 4 attacks with infinite, but like it was so slow, and right now you need to play like 4 of these stand trigger, you need to deck yourself out, then you need to do the loop. Personally, I think if you get to that point and then you have 4 attacks of infinite, you can have it. I don't care. Honestly, you've weakened your deck with these G triggers. You're probably only doing this by like 3rd stride, and Angel Feather is already like a deck without a real win condition. In my opinion, just give it back to them. I don't care. I like Angel Feather, of course. Maybe you could say, oh, I'm biased. When have you seen an Angel Feather top in premium? When? Tell me. The last time was probably Angel Gize. And Gize, let's be real, that thing's dead. So I think this can come back to 4. If it breaks, you can reban it. I don't really care. I don't think it will break. Now, of course, I'm not going to go over every card just to then say, oh, this one shouldn't be banned. So just let's jump instantly into Crimson Lion Cub Curve, the Gold Paladin starter right here. It was restricted as a first Vanguard. Why was it restricted? Ezel was basically powerful as hell. It could just instantly superior ride and kill you while you were on 2. And if not that, you were dead on 3. It was really obnoxious. However, this was the first hit to Ezel. But after that, WCC still got 1st and 3rd at Worlds with Ezel. So clearly, this hit did nothing and was also the wrong hit. So in my opinion, this card can come back. Sure, you'll give Gold Paladin, you know, their slightly more consistent superior ride. I personally don't care because the real issue was Wonder Ezel all along. So this can come back. Next, we have Magical Coleco. Magical Coleco is a starter for Oracle Think Tank, or, you know, you can main deck it as well, that essentially searched for a bunch of CEO Amaterasus, and that way you put a bunch of crits on your Vanguard. And you're not allowed to use this as a starter specifically because when you had Zazan, you could do this while your opponent was still at grade 1. So you could randomly just kill your opponent while they were on 1. Of course, that's obnoxious and degenerate. But Zazan by now has been banned. So I don't see the point anymore in getting rid of this. Tempest Sphere is gone on top as well. So like, who cares, right? Just unrestrict this as a forerunner. I don't think anyone will play it as a forerunner, so it doesn't really matter. Next, we have Taro. Taro was banned because of an infinite loop with Fenrir. And that loop was degenerate, absolutely. But I don't think this card should be put back to 4. I think, however, that it can be put back to 1. Reason is, first of all, Zazan is gone, so you don't even have to like really worry about the instant GB stuff anymore. I do think 4 would be too much because again, then you could just do the loop on 1st stride again, and no one wants to see that happening. But I don't think the deck will be disgusting with this at 1. I would argue even 2 might be fine. But that gets into, you know, territory where people have Vietnam flashbacks and so forth. So I think put it to 1 and it'll probably be fine. Now, the first thing people will say is, hey, that actually makes Regalia way better. And Regalia is already insane and it's getting way more support. So it might get breakingly insane, blah, blah, blah. Sure. So choice restricted with Norn while bringing it back to 1. This way, you give Genesis, you know, some of their power back. Is it gonna make a major impact? I don't think so, and that's why I think it'll probably be fine. So Taro to 1, but choice restricted with Norn should probably be fine, and we can then see from there what happens. Next, Enigmatic Assassin. Now this one should make longtime premium players go nuts. This card was put to 1 because No Life King had a ridiculous loop that basically instantly killed you when they rode up. It was that simple. I won BCS France with it. I qualified for Worlds with this. It was really insane. Now, I'm not saying we can put this back to 4 because obviously NLK only got faster and more consistent, so you just get that mess back. But I do think you can put this to 2. Now, I am aware that this gives NLK an extra attack, but to me, if you were giving NLK that amount of damage by turn 3, you were going to die to an NLK Barrow anyway. Maybe even on top of a Hope on Damp and so forth. Like, there's a lot of things NLK can already do with that damage that they might even prefer over the extra Vanguard attack. And a lot of people have already learned the counterplay towards NLK. NLK also doesn't have the Gastille anymore, so obviously that's no longer an issue. And a lot of power cards for NLK in general are in the grade 3 lineup, so they need to run like the grade 3 searchers to get their consistent ride up. And there's overall just like a lot of really finicky things that make NLK not great right now. I think even with Assassin at 2, the deck will still not be, you know, disgusting. Will it get better? Sure. Might it even enter tier 1? Maybe. But I don't think it'll go back to, you know, its game-breaking self. And so I think as an experiment, putting this back to 2 is probably okay. And again, if it then breaks, reban it. Who cares? For that reason, Assassin to 2. Next, we have Dorian. Now, Dorian was limited because there was a loop you could do with 2 that basically stalled for a bunch of time. And then you drew a billion and, you know, people just didn't like how slow down the game got when you did this, and it ran into an issue at a tournament, at a WGP or something along those lines. That's why they hit it, because, you know, time stalling is like something that Bushiroad takes very seriously. Personally, this was never a relevant thing beyond that one event from what I could see. Like, I don't know, we test a lot. We are hardcore competitively testing every premium format for sure. And this was never like a major issue. You know, I can understand that it's possible. I know how the loop works, but I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you're afraid of that though, you can simply put it to 2, because now you're asking them to get both their copies by turn 3 in order to do the loop or something along those lines. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think people will play 2 Dorian and a deck built around that thing just to do that. And you are powering up non-Nightmare Doll Pale Moon decks just by giving them this back to 2. So for that reason, Dorian back to 2, just, you know, see if that time stalling thing comes up then. I don't think it will. It's still a pretty cool gift to people who play Silver Torn or just, you know, Pale Moon non-Nightmare Doll in general. Next, we have Nightcrow. This card was put to 1 many years ago because of 7 Seas Rush. 7 Seas Rush, if you don't know, if you're not a Vanguard boomer, was a deck that stayed at grade 1 because your opponent then couldn't stride and couldn't see breeze you either. And so decks that relied on striding just died. First of all, that's no longer a thing. You can now just ride to grade 3, stay an extra turn, and you can start striding. And also, the game has like sped up so much that even if you did that, even if that somehow mattered, I think this would still be garbage. So for that reason, I think Nightcrow can come to 4. I do know that there's ways to like infinite loop this with like other 7 Seas cards and some newer cards, and somehow you then get infinite power, but it's like super janky garbage. And I'm pretty sure you can even go to infinite power with Night Spinal and looping already, but it's just so bad and slow and janky that no one does it. So for that reason, like, sure, something like that might pop up because this card isn't the hard ones per turn and you could like maybe loop with different cards, but I really don't think it would do anything. So for that reason, easily come back to 4. This was only put here because of 7 Seas Rush, and who cares, right? Now next we have Night Runner. This card was also put to 1 because of the 7 Seas Rush. And personally, again, same story, bring it back to 4. However, there's one little caveat here. I do think there's an issue with this endless easy milling that Granblue has access to, especially like in regards to Navigator. So I can see a future where this and or Navigator make lots of issues issues and then need to be re-banned. So for that reason, I say put it back because 7 Seas Rush is not a thing anymore, but it's very possible that this plus navigator needs to go in the future at some point. Next, we have Lizbeth. Lizbeth is a Neo Nectar stand that allowed them to do a loop. Neo Nectar has been irrelevant ever since Katarina's ban, and before that it was also irrelevant. Like, Neo basically lived and died by Katarina. You could say, oh, right now there's like the new support that makes it a bit better. Sure, but overall, I don't think Lizbeth is that big of an issue that it matters. Will they be able to loop again? Sure, you know, have your fun at the 4th stride, you know, enjoy. I don't really care, and I don't think anyone is gonna start playing for Lizbeth and all of the other support you want to add on top of that to make that work. That feels like a very 2019 or 2018 or 2017 Vanguard thing to do, and I feel like they're just keeping it there for safety reasons, but I don't think it's that necessary. And once again, if it somehow breaks, you can always reban it. Next, we have Katarina. Why was Katarina banned? Katarina was a disgusting aggro deck that could find anything from its deck without any cost. You know, people died on first stride, and if they didn't die on first stride, Katarina had a massive hand, and then next stride you were for sure dead. It was absolutely insane. Now, a lot of people say, oh, she can now come back because decks have power crept so much. Well, the thing is, this deck also power crept so much. People don't seem to realize that the cards around Katarina have also improved. And the Springfest season that never happened, Springfest season 2020, had new cards in it that made this deck so much better. We were gonna play it. You know, Mohammed J and I, we were gonna have a Katarina in our lineup because of how disgusting that deck had become. Even though it was really strong already, that set with Ines in it was insane. And after that, it also got cycloned. And after that, it also got just more general support. For that reason, I do not think you can just release Katarina right now and say, oh, it'll be fine, all it takes power creep. Like, no. People clearly never tested in the Ines environment, and it shows. With that being said, I do think you can bring back Katarina to 1 and then choice restrict it with a bunch of cards. So here goes. You bring back Katarina to 1, but you choice restrict it with Ines, with Cycloned, and with the Antero Grade 2 that gives your Vanguard 25,000 power when you have some tokens. Because if you don't know, essentially you could call that during your opponent's turn and then give your Vanguard so much power, it's basically a Gizeh. If you put that into the deck together with a new aggro Ines gave, and then on top of that the Cyclone power, this deck would be tier 0 overnight. So we choice restricted for that reason. A 4-way choice restrict: Katarina, Ines, Antero, Cyclone. Does it have to be expanded beyond that? Maybe, I don't know, but those 4 at least. And then you can bring back Katarina to 1 as a test. See if it's unfair. See if it breaks. Maybe it does, then you put it back to 0. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't even, you know, come into the meta anymore. Then you can put Katarina back to 2, and so forth. That feels like a solid experimentation, but I definitely believe that whoever is saying right now, Katarina can come to 4, no problem, just hasn't tested it at all. It shows, and that's okay, but just be very aware. Ines, Cyclone, Antero, like all of that shit breaks this card way more, way harder than anyone ever saw at actual events, because we never were able to play it. That Springfest COVID happened, and that was that. Next, we have Commander Laurel. This card is at 1. Why? I don't know. We had premium, and suddenly Bushi went, oh yeah, Laurel is gonna break the game for sure. We're gonna put this at 1. Again, I don't really know. There's a lot of DP players that simply don't play this. It's an old card. A lot of DP cards already do the restand thing on their own. You could argue some people don't play it because at 1 it's too inconsistent to see, but like, I don't see how this card breaks anything. So for that reason, it can come back to 4. Pretty safe bring back. Next, we have Zinc. I know every Chaos player right now is losing their mind. Why did this get a ban? And we can even ask ourselves the question, why was it banned? The answer is, I don't know. Most people speculate that it's because Japan's premium scene wasn't super developed, you know, the last year or a year and a half, 2 years or so. And so for that reason, Chaos was too strong. There was no obvious reason why this was hit. hit. For that reason, I think it can come back to 4. One thing, however, I do think a lot of people are going too easy on this card as well. This is the most free resource generator ever. And so it's very possible that in the future, this card will need a ban. It is very possible that all of this free resource generation, because again, read this card. If you read this card and think this is like fine, you would put this in any other clan and they would abuse the living shit out of it. They would gladly take it. Every deck would run this if they could. But it's because Chaos just isn't that strong of a deck that, you know, it's not really as damaging. So while right now, I think you can put it back to 4, there is a future where this card does break. That future is just not now. And that is the video. Those are the cards and hits or unhits that I think could happen without breaking the game. Now, is it possible that one of these hits ended up being too strong and needs to be re-hit? Potentially, but I think the 12 or 13 cards we've saved here would be cool enough to have back. You bring back 13 cards, or, you know, you bring them semi back, and maybe some meta spices up, or maybe it doesn't. And then if something breaks, sure, re-hit it. Not the biggest deal in my opinion. Again, I was also very cautious with decks that I know would break, like the Katarina hit. That's why we had that choice restrict on top. That's why it's only going to 1 and so forth. I think it would be a cool little bit of experimentation. It would also unbloat the ban list a little bit, because if you've played Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, like there's 100 cards on that ban list that aren't supposed to be there, and it just becomes a very, very hot mess. And I don't think Vanguard should have that. You know, I think it's very possible that if we extrapolate maybe 5 years from now, the Vanguard ban list is just huge, filled with cards that are no longer relevant. I think it would be cool if we, you know, would unhit stuff so that the ban list truly hits only things that actually matter. So that was it. Hope you found it interesting. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.